The young man's name was Bayron, once just your average college dude from the modern world. But one day, he bumped into a mysterious system that yeeted him straight into another realm, the Long Continent. Unfortunately, the new life he imagined? Yeah, total scam. For 3 whole years, he lived as a servant with zero freedom, doing nothing but serving people like a walking customer service machine. Deep down, Bayron swore he'd never stay stuck in that miserable life forever. One day, the village he lived in got raided by a demon cult. One of the cultists tried to snatch him. Bayron fought back, but ended up getting choked like a broken action figure. Right when he was about to pass out, a group of disciples from the path of righteousness swooped in and wiped the demons out. Stunned by their power, Bayron immediately screamed that he wanted to become an immortal too. That scream apparently acted like a VIP summon because an old grandpa suddenly appeared, the sect leader himself. He had been looking for new disciples, and after hearing Bayron's cry, he decided to take him in. A glowing system panel popped up with 3 choices. The first 2 options would let him become the old man's disciple and reward him with rare treasures. The third option? Politely declining and getting a measly +1 basic attribute point. Bayron didn't even hesitate. He hugged the grandpa's leg like his life depended on it and called him Master. For a moment, he felt like he was the protagonist of every epic fantasy he'd ever binged. But instead of teaching him heavenly arts, the old man tossed him into a mining area and claimed it was an entrance trial. Bayron, being his innocent self, accepted it. Half a day later, he was already exhausted like a phone stuck at 1% battery. The mine supervisor yelled at him and literally kicked him out. That's when Bayron realized he'd been scammed. His master had actually sold him to the mine. The system popped up again with 3 choices. Bayron went for the second one, praying he'd be freed. Instead, the supervisor beat him senseless. Only then did he realize the system wanted him to pick option 3, accept his fate and continue mining. When he finally obeyed, the system announced he'd gained 1 extra attribute point, and his body instantly recovered, like a human power bank on fast charge. At midnight, some people came whispering to the workers, saying the guards were drunk, and it was the perfect time to escape. The system displayed 4 choices. Naturally, Bayron picked option 3, join the escape crew. The next morning, he got caught and beaten again as an example for the others. Bayron, sometime later, while mining, a massive explosion rocked the area. A giant ring of fire appeared in the sky. The system issued a new mission: use the chaos to escape. Desperate, Bayron sprinted down the mountain. A supervisor almost grabbed him, but suddenly a man appeared and sliced the supervisor down. The man said they were from a neighboring sect sent to destroy the mine. Impressed by their strength, Bayron immediately decided to join them. 5 years passed. Bayron was now a sect member, but his cultivation remained stuck at the 5th stage of chi refinement. The elders didn't even want to teach him. They thought he was too weak. But Bayron was used to it. For 5 years, every time he tried to improve, the system baited him with massive rewards. Even though his cultivation was low, his basic stats had grown so much that he could solo giant monsters like it was casual exercise. One day in the sect hall, other disciples laughed at him for not progressing. Just then, 2 girls from the water mirror hall showed up, asking if he knew Senior Bayron. He lied and said that person had left the sect. His lie exploded instantly when someone in the hall called his name. With no escape, he admitted his identity. The two girls said they were going down the mountain for a trial and needed him as their guide. Bayron immediately said no. The purple-haired girl, Zijin, felt offended. It was the first time a guy had ever rejected her. The red-haired one, Chuli, poked at him more, accusing him of being scared. Then their guardian, a powerful woman who also happened to be their teacher, appeared and talked to Bayron. She knew that despite his low cultivation, he had always managed to lead junior disciples safely during trials. So she requested that he guide her students this time as well. Soon after, 3 more girls joined the group. Before they left, the guardian warned that all 5 were young nobles, meaning problems were pretty much guaranteed. Throughout the trip, the girls kept asking about Bayron's strength. He firmly explained that each of them would start with 10 points, and every mistake would deduct points. If they hit 0, the trial was considered a failure. Zijin hated the idea of being bossed around by someone weaker, but Chuli seemed to get excited every time he scolded her. Before departure, Bayron gave them dark-colored outfits to avoid drawing too much attention. When he reported to his senior about heading down the mountain with new disciples, he didn't see the girls anywhere, until he realized they were already wearing the disguises and standing quietly behind him like stealth ninjas. A while later, the 6 of them arrived at Longsan City. The girls, who rarely left the sect, were amazed by the outside world. Chuli looked at Zijin and reminded her that she'd better follow Senior Bayron's commands or she'd start losing points. With an annoyed look on her face, Zijin reluctantly followed along. But her steps froze the moment she spotted someone being bullied across the street. Without even a second of brain buffering, she broke away from the group, fully prepared to play hero and teach those bullies a life lesson. But Bayron grabbed her before she got far. He gave her a calm stare and asked, "And how exactly do you know who's right and who's wrong here? That stall owner might not be the saint you think he is. And if those guys dare to act wild in public, they probably have someone powerful backing them. If we meddle, we could offend the wrong person and fail our trial mission." He ended his advice with a firm, almost parental tone. Don't meddle in other people's business. Chuli backed him up too, but Zijin stormed off anyway, clearly pissed. What they didn't know was that someone had been quietly watching her little rebellion from afar. When the group of 6 finally reached the inn, they rented just 1 room. The girls were scandalized because the room was, well, basic, not even a mirror. That's when they realized every time they'd left the mountain before, there were always servants pampering them like princesses. Bayron simply said, "Right now, your status is the same as ordinary folks. Get used to being independent." That sentence alone made Zijin's irritation jump 10 levels. That night, her frustration boiled over. Zijin snuck out after changing clothes, fully intending to find yesterday's bullies and give them a very hands-on moral education. On her way, she found an old lady crying by the roadside. Her hero mode, yes, the same one that always gets her in trouble, switched on again. Zijin approached her and asked what happened. With a trembling voice, the old lady claimed her daughter-in-law treated her like an animal, fed her leftovers, and kicked her out of the house. That was all it took. Zijin's temper exploded. She marched straight to the woman's house and caused enough commotion to wake the neighbors. The daughter-in-law stormed out and yelled at her. Furious, Zijin drew her sword and prepared to strike. But then the woman's husband stepped out and calmly said, "Please come inside. Let's talk things out properly." Confident in her own strength, Zijin followed him in. The moment she stepped past the door, she froze. A group of rough-looking men were waiting inside. They laughed. Didn't think you'd fall for it that easily. And that's when she realized the sad truth. That sweet old lady had scammed her after noticing how much she loved sticking her nose into trouble. Before she could react, her vision blurred. The poison kicked in fast. Bayron's voice echoed in her mind. If you ever face danger, run. Great advice. Shame her body had already turned into overcooked noodles. Rain began to fall as Zijin fought to stay conscious, but the thugs rushed at her. She managed to kick one of them, but their leader, much stronger, slashed her down. Just as the blade was about to land a finishing strike, thunder roared, and Bayron appeared, blocking the attack with one hand like it was nothing. He checked Zijin quickly, making sure she wasn't fatally hurt. The leader attacked again, but Bayron casually blocked with his bare hand and shattered the man's sword. In a few swift, brutal moves, the thug went flying, hitting the ground repeatedly until his head was dripping with blood. Breath ragged, Bayron lifted Zijin and walked away. The leader screamed after him, "Tell your people to stop kidnapping anyone else. I'll find out who that man is within 2 days." When Zijin woke up, she was already back at the inn. Chuli sat beside her, worried sick. The moment Zijin opened her eyes, Chuli practically tackled her with a hug. Bayron only said flatly, "Good thing the medicine worked." Zijin thanked him sincerely, admitting she'd been arrogant and ignored his warnings. Chuli was shocked. The famously proud girl actually admitted she was wrong. She was happy the three were finally getting along. But Bayron simply glanced at them and said coldly, "Enough. Rest. We leave early tomorrow." Inside, though, he knew the system probably gave him bonus points for being stern. The next morning, the group headed to Kaya village, where several children had mysteriously gone missing. On the way, Bayron asked for their plan. Zijin said they should enter the village and ask the residents directly. The other girls agreed, but Bayron shut it down. If you stir things up, the kidnappers will run. Better to wait outside and rely on luck. In the end, only Bayron and Chuli entered the village, disguised as toy sellers. Throughout the day, he kept correcting Chuli because she kept forgetting her role. Strangely, she would blush every time he scolded her. They worked until 2 little kids came to buy toys. Moments later, their mother rushed over, scolded them, and dragged them away. A candied sugar vendor explained that kidnappings had made parents extremely wary. When Chuli accidentally spoke in her natural soft feminine tone, Bayron quickly covered for her. "Sorry, he's sick. His voice changes sometimes." The men accepted the explanation without suspicion. While investigating, Bayron noticed strange patterns drawn on the fences of houses where children had vanished, symbols sketched with a fragrant liquid. They went into a blacksmith shop pretending to browse tools. The owner revealed the kidnappings had been happening for over a month, and even the government had failed to catch the culprit. Surprisingly, Bayron praised Chuli. "You did good." The girl looked disappointed she wasn't being scolded, but then smiled faintly as they left the village. Bayron concluded that the kidnappers used nectar to draw those symbols on their target houses. That night, fireflies began to dance in the darkness, drawn to the nectar's scent. And the girls saw it for themselves. The symbols glowed softly on the fences, shining like signals in the night. The peaceful night didn't last long, because out of nowhere, some sneaky kidnapper slid into a villager's house like a budget ninja and snatched a sleeping child. The villagers instantly gave chase all the way into the forest, only to see the guy vanish behind a giant boulder. Biren squinted at the spot and went, "Yup, classic magical trap formation. We're stuck." The only way out? Break it. So he grabbed a random piece of wood, because apparently that's all a pro like him needs, activated the formation, and bam, the whole space around them twisted. Two massive monsters appeared, blocking the path like overgrown bouncers. The group was strong, sure, but these beasts were on another level, like, why are they even this buff level? Right when things got intense, Biren launched himself forward, parried every attack like he was born doing it, and finished the creature with one clean strike. Meanwhile, not too far away, the three girls were struggling against a four-armed monster that clearly didn't believe in leg day. When its head finally burst, the whole body split apart like faulty special effects. After a long fight, Biren finished that one too. The moment the monster dropped, the formation shattered. Reality came back and, surprise, the giant boulder blocking their view simply vanished. They followed the kidnapper's trail into a cave where two men were guarding the kidnapped children. One of them turned out to be the familiar candy seller who sold 3 light sugar back in the village. When they heard footsteps, the kidnappers panicked and tried to run. Spoiler, they didn't get far. Biren handed them to Scorpion to report to the authorities while he rescued the children. The candy seller dropped to his knees, shaking, begging Biren not to meddle in the affairs of the notoriously cruel demon sect. Zijin at first thought the children were being raised as snacks, but the man explained they were actually being raised as future generation material, which honestly didn't sound any better. He begged for mercy and offered the very formation technique that trapped them earlier, bragging that it was strong enough to restrain even a legendary king. Biren didn't really care until the man said he found the technique behind a mountain nearby. The man trembled as he added, "I only did this for my starving family, my elderly parents, and my hungry little kids." The girls fell silent, a few even tearing up. Yet Biren remained cold. He handed the man over to the authorities and took the girls away. During their escape, Chuli asked why they had to leave so quickly. Biren replied, "Never get too close to government business. To them, officials and bandits aren't that different. Once a mission ends, disappear before the people behind all of this cause trouble." So, that night, instead of returning to the inn, they fled the region. Back at the same inn, a scar-covered man approached the clerk, asking whether any sect had stayed there. The clerk thought, then said no. The man raised his hand, and suddenly a snake shot out and wrapped around the clerk's neck. With a chilling stare, he told the clerk to think again. Trembling, the clerk admitted that a few hooded guests had left earlier that morning. The scarred man then left immediately to report to his superior. That night, in their new hideout, the girls couldn't sleep. "Why has no one ever heard of someone as strong as Biren?" one whispered. The next morning, they tried to make each other ask him directly, but since one of them was always the one getting scolded by Biren, the others held her back, completely unaware that his anger was basically his version of caring. On the road again, they heard cries for help. A group of people was being attacked by bandits. The girls jumped into action and fought back. Thanks to their numbers, the bandits ran off in panic. But one bandit threw a hidden weapon from behind. Biren caught it effortlessly and warned everyone not to let their guard down just because the enemy looked scared. A young man they saved walked up to them, thanked them, and asked Biren's name. Biren smiled and casually lied, "I'm Wanglo." The young man's servant then claimed to be from the Three Obedient sect. Biren immediately knew they were lying. He was from that sect himself and had never seen their faces. After calling out the lie, he tossed them a pouch of healing medicine and turned to leave. But the young man finally came clean. He was actually the son of the Blood Sect, one of the most feared demon sects on the land. Biren was stunned. Just a few sentences and he'd already tricked the son of the most notorious sect. He warned the girls not to act rashly. If even a powerful sect like that could be bullied by regular bandits, then something darker was definitely happening in the background. Qin explained that he had helped a poor old farmer who was attacked, and now the bandits are after him. He also insisted that even though he came from an evil sect, he's nearly as dark-hearted as his father. Qin Yu he held a rare condition that made cultivation difficult. Because of that, he was often mocked. His loyal servant, Song, immediately defended him, declaring that Qin Yu was the strongest in their eyes. Hearing this, Biren suddenly remembered a character from a noodle novel he once read, some weak guy with a devoted servant. Qin Yu fit the description perfectly. Biren then mentioned that he never hated Qin Yu's father because, in past missions, Qin Yu always survived suspiciously well. He suspected Qin Yu's third uncle, Qin Zhao, had secretly protected him since childhood and even helped his mother. Biren fell silent as Qin Yu continued. Supposedly, the demon sect leader once received a pair of mysterious wooden pieces from that third uncle. Since his internal system wouldn't let him say anything negative, Biren praised the uncle a few times. Then Qin Yu's eyes welled up as he added, "My parents died when I was little, and the uncle who raised me passed away too. I've been alone ever since." The story was so touching that everyone who heard it got misty-eyed. After chatting for what felt like ages, they finally split up at the sect gate. There, Biren gave his super strict "don't break this" instructions. Nobody was allowed to mention that they'd helped each other during the exam, and nobody should look for him unless it was absolutely important. Only then did the girls understand why Biren wasn't exactly the campus superstar. He was just way too closed off. After earning a mountain of points, Biren's power skyrocketed. Now he could literally zoom through the air just by focusing really hard. Basically, turbo mode unlocked. He headed straight for the forest where the candy seller's mysterious book was supposed to be. Deep inside, he found a giant poplar tree with a hole in its trunk. The system alarm popped up like, "Bro, prepare yourself." As soon as he touched the right spot, a hidden mechanism clicked and a fully armored monster jumped out, blasting lightning and fireballs like it was trying to audition for an action movie. Biren dodged everything with ease, then smashed its metal shell in one punch. Kaboom! A sword fell out from inside the armor. Clearly, this box wasn't holding just a book. With gloves on, he finally opened it, only for a jet-black wugong monster to leap at him. He caught it mid-air like it was nothing. Turned out the little guy was perfect alchemy material, so he popped it into his gourd and continued exploring the box. Inside were some raw stones and a martial arts manual. Back at Zhongbei, Biren studied the manual and tried creating a defensive formation. Shockingly, it worked and even covered a huge area, super effective against demons. The next morning, just as he was about to enjoy a chill chess match, Baichu showed up to pick him up. Biren was relieved, thinking he'd avoid Morongsu. But nope, plot twist. Baichu brought him straight to her. As soon as they entered the room, Baichu switched personality, talking softly and sweetly to Morongsu, only to be kicked out because she wanted a private talk with Biren. Before leaving, Baichu shot him a death glare like, "Don't you dare mess this up." Biren could only wonder how someone with a personality that chaotic planned to win Morongsu's heart. Morongsu told him that after hearing from Chuli that he didn't want to be involved anymore, she decided to respect his choice. Meanwhile, outside, Baichu was totally eavesdropping, then advised Biren to invite Morongsu to the sect more often for everyone's progress, whatever that meant. The sect was buzzing because of two newcomers, a young man and a beautiful girl named Yingxi, who had crushed the intersect competition. 5 people had performed amazingly, with Handley winning first place. Tons of boys tried approaching Yingxi, but she rejected every single one of them. After defeating them, she even visited Baron's place. But since he wasn't home, she just left a gift and went off smiling like she'd won the lottery. Meanwhile, Handley, who was actually Baron's junior, went up the mountain to find him. Unfortunately, Baron's protective formation activated and produced a clone of Baron to fight him. After a fierce battle, Liao destroyed the clone with a hidden weapon, but the formation copied his techniques and kept attacking. Right when he was about to lose, Baron arrived, saved him, and scolded him hard for forgetting the rule about playing the flute before entering the mountain. Liao brought great news. He'd won the sect championship. Baron congratulated him, but reminded him that the peak is also where falls begin. After sharing tea, Baron handed him a strange piece of cloth. When Liao looked confused, he explained that hidden inside were invisible needles he created, silent but deadly. Liao then reported the appearance of a Tier 2 magical beast. Baron told him to report immediately if 3 of them showed up. Meanwhile, the townspeople were hunting for 6 mysterious men in straw hats. When they got a report, it turned out to be the wrong group. They found Qin Yu's team instead, also wearing straw hats, but with both men and women. While they were resting at an inn, someone began spying on them. Not long after, a group of thugs stormed in and beat up the elderly innkeeper. Songyi asked if they should help, but Qin Yu sensed something off and wondered what would Baron do if he were me. Then he remembered his dad was the leader of the demon sect, so basically, fear who? With one command, Songyi went full flash mode and knocked out every thug instantly. When the boss tried to strike back, Qin Yu stepped in. With a single palm strike, he sent the boss flying all the way to the street. From afar, the gang's deputy leader watched silently. One of his men whispered that the person below was the same one who'd defeated Luca. The deputy grew curious. Just who was this guy? During the chaos, Qin Yu's straw hat fell off, revealing his identity. Everyone froze in shock. But because his cultivation level was still low, he soon got cornered. He silently prayed for his third uncle to appear. And suddenly, a young man arrived, pulled him to safety, and sliced through the enemy's sword, sending the gangster fleeing in terror. The newcomer introduced himself as Baizan. Everyone stared. Baizan, the number 2 of Zhongbei, a prodigy already ranked high despite his atafata. The deputy gang leader turned pale. "Why is the 3rd son of the demon sect here? Did they discover our secret?" he whispered in panic. That night, Baron had just returned from the forest when his junior, Yingxi, called out to him. Eyes sparkling, cheeks pink, she ran over carrying a box. "I just got back from a long trip. This is a gift for you," she said excitedly. When Baron opened it, he was shocked. It was a 9-leaf patterned finger herb, an extremely rare treasure. Yingxi was so thrilled she nearly tripped, and Baron caught her just in time. Because of how close they were, Yingxi's nose started bleeding, but she still smiled like the happiest person alive. 4 years of observing what Baron liked, finally worth it. The next morning, Beiran caught wind of rumors about some strange beasts popping up. Instead of panicking, he actually got excited. Those creatures were the only clue to pinpoint the exact location of the legendary flower. And now, 3 of them decided to show up at once. Yeah, that basically screamed, the flower is about to bloom. As they flew toward the site, his system suddenly threw a warning. Someone was tailing them. Beiran told Leo to boost their speed with magic, but the stalker's cultivation level turned out to be higher than theirs. Even worse, their teammates waiting up ahead got sniped right in the head by some transparent arrows. Before anyone could even gasp, Beiran and Leo took out the pursuers in a blink. Then, a pretty girl stepped out, claiming she meant no harm, but her voice had that "I'm totally manipulating you" vibe. Leo, bless his clueless heart, didn't notice a thing and almost fell for her charm until she tried to strike. Beiran chopped her down without hesitation. Her companion flipped out and threw a hidden weapon, but Beiran casually bounced it back, killing the guy on the spot. With all enemies gone, only 3 strange beasts remained, bickering over the lightning flower. 2 started fighting, but another beast swooped in, yelling at them to kill the humans first. Except the moment they arrived, they froze because Beiran had already flattened their friend in 1 strike. He shrugged and said, "Li Xiao wants to test a new move. Beat him and you're free." Of course, the beasts rushed in. Leo injured one with a secret weapon, while the other tried a flashy air attack, only to lose its leg mid-strike. When the chaos ended, Beiran gave the 3 beasts destruction pills. If they didn't take the antidote every month, boom, instant fireworks. But as long as they report to the medicine library on time, they'd get the antidote. The deal? They'd guide Beiran to the legendary flower. Upon arrival, the air crackled with electricity. Thunder roared from above. The flower was undergoing a lightning tribulation. Beiran told everyone to hide, snatched the thunder spirit flower, and dashed off before any experts showed up. A few days later, he was casually playing chess with an elder when Baichu came calling. Meanwhile, Chuli was finishing a piano performance in class. Everyone showered her with praise. One student even chopped his arm just to impress her. A narcissistic guy overhyped her so much that Chuli smiled politely while dying inside. She purposely played a wrong note, but no one dared to comment. If Beiran had been there, she knew she'd get scolded to death. When the guy invited her to see some flowers, she rejected him and walked off. Outside, her younger siblings dragged her to the flower garden after seeing Beiran head that way. There, Beiran bumped into Murung Sue. The woman praised his upbeat attitude despite his average cultivation and said she wanted to host an intersect competition to spread his energy. Beiran politely declined. Standing out too much just brings trouble. She understood and didn't press him. Curiosity pulled Beiran deeper into a fragrant area. Murung Sue explained it was the sect leader's personal garden. Suddenly, he was lifted by a mysterious force as leader Shi appeared. Amazed that he could pick out 1 flower scent among hundreds, she invited him into her private garden. Beiran was blown away by the beauty of flowers he'd never seen before. Leader Shi said the flowers suited his medical skills and she'd gifted to him, but with 2 conditions. He had to take care of her garden and he had to outdance her. In the exam hall, the head instructor jumped in first. Beiran smirked and demonstrated what a real dance looked like, using moves he remembered from Earth. The hall instantly turned festive. Fired up, the sect leader chugged wine like it was water. The guardian spirit tried to stop her. Too late. Soon she got so drunk, her eyes went blurry. A drunk woman with spiritual power? Terrifying. She laughed wildly, unleashed a deadly move, and shattered the hall pillars. Thankfully, before she could blast anything else, she collapsed and passed out. The next morning on stage, Baichu and Murung Sue announced an exchange session between 2 sects. Beiran was chilling in the flower garden when he felt a sudden shiver. The sect leader was calling him. She dragged him over to play with her. Beiran tried to decline politely. "There's a meeting today. You really don't want to attend? Just playing all day?" But she didn't care. When he tried to leave, she yanked him back with overwhelming power. With no chance to resist, he accepted his fate. Then she pulled out her soul treasure, making Beiran's eyes sparkle. She smirked, noticing his reaction, and offered it to him if he kept her company. Realizing just how filthy rich she was, Beiran surrendered to capitalism on the spot and played along. They used games he had learned back on Earth. That day, they wore armor while competing, but the sect leader tripped and face-planted into a pile of papers. Murungsu stormed in, scolding sect leader Teti for causing trouble again, then turned to Beiran, asking why he wasn't at the ceremony. Was he mad? Eventually, she agreed to cooperate so Beiran wouldn't get named. Outside, she asked Leo whether he could defeat Zoai. Leo walked out with a swollen face. Apparently, he had failed to overcome Saobai even after receiving a cultivation boost. Beiran told him to come to the formation chamber the next morning. His home had a massive hidden room where he began preparing the formation using the fire lion fist technique plus crystals and precious items for Leo to absorb. Leo dropped to his knees, hugging Beiran's leg, thanking him non-stop. After finishing his business, Beiran headed back to the sect. When he arrived, the disciples were lining up, all excited to see their new junior. He tried to sneak away like a ninja on discount mode, but of course, Baichu caught him red-handed. The sect master was furious because Beiran skipped the ceremony. Quick on his feet, Beiran claimed he'd been helping Baichu take care of the flower garden. Other sect leaders overheard this, and in an instant, Duangchu's tone softened. He even praised Beiran like he was the hardest working gardener in the continent. Duangchu also brought news. A grand hero competition would soon be held by the biggest sect in the region. It was basically the perfect stage to flex one's power. One of the categories was Chinese chess, and in that field, no one could beat Beiran. Duangchu said he liked Tramhua and wanted Beiran to help persuade Baichu. But before he even finished the sentence, Beiran had already vanished. Poof! Gone with the wind. When Beiran stepped into the flower garden, someone suddenly ambushed him. He blocked the strike and saw the attacker. It was Ma Duangchu from the Nightblade sect. From inside, Baichu yelled that he didn't need any alliance help, then yanked Beiran in and hugged him tight with sparkly-eyed enthusiasm. Since the guardian spirit was away that day, no one could bother them. They ended up playing dice like two kids who skipped class, laughing non-stop. But the fun died instantly when the guardian spirit came looking for them. He scolded Beiran for joining the Jia Youth Association because, knowing Beiran's personality, he would never show up unless the sect was in serious danger. Beiran just laughed and said the guardian totally misunderstood. He rarely showed up simply because his cultivation was still low. Outside the sect, a blond man had just descended the mountain, carrying tons of valuable items to sell. The disciples scrambled to buy them. Afterwards, he headed to the flower garden to meet Beiran. Turns out, all the goods he sold belonged to Beiran anyway. Beiran announced that soon the blond man would replace him as the garden take-carer. The blond guy also reported that he had found a house exactly like what Beiran wanted, so they flew off to check it out. Along the way, the blond man couldn't hide his shock. Beiran's strength had skyrocketed and he couldn't keep up at all. So, Beiran gave him a cultivation boosting pill as a don't fall behind gift. They soon arrived at the house. The owner welcomed them and let them look around. Beiran loved the place instantly. The owner tried to negotiate the price, but the blond man cut in, saying, "This house is too dirty and full of leaves. The price should go down." Then, Beiran suggested a trade. He wanted to exchange the house for a magic weapon. The owner was intrigued. Beiran took out a high-grade sword. When tested, the sword amplified the user's energy 5 times over. The owner was stunned and immediately agreed to trade the house for Qingdao. The blond man planned to call a broker to sell his own house afterwards, but unexpectedly, the homeowner betrayed them. He tried to kill both of them to keep the legendary sword without giving up his house. When he swung the blade, Beiran instantly blocked it. As Beiran rushed forward, the man's unicorn-shaped armor glowed. His entire body was wrapped in insanely durable protection. None of Beiran's attacks could break through it. But Beiran wasn't the type to give up. When the light on the man's hand flared, Beiran moved fast, grabbed his wrist, and redirected the blast straight into the armor. Beiran had suspected foul play from the start. Many people who came to buy the house or trade treasures had mysteriously vanished, and now he knew why. He racked the yard and uncovered bones buried beneath the soil. Calmly, the homeowner remarked that the next victim would be a human from Earth. A second later, Beiran kicked the sword from his hand and slammed a heavy blow into his chest. Bones cracked and the man dropped unconscious. A few days later, Liao finally completed his training and stepped out of the meditation chamber. He didn't expect that his senior brother Beiran had been standing guard outside the whole time, protecting him. When Beiran tested Liao's new abilities, he found that Liao's strength and speed had improved greatly, though still nowhere near Beiran's level. After the test, Beiran immediately told him to go shower because he smelled like someone who'd been marinating in training sweat for days. Not long after, junior sister Yingxi arrived. She had just been chosen to join the young heroes and asked Beiran to teach her calligraphy. The system popped up a new mission: accept her request. Beiran reviewed her work and gently pointed out the layout issues and the fact that her characters were way too tiny. But Yingxi just stared at him quietly, not hearing a word, lost in her own world. So, Beiran wrote a single character as an example, hoping she'd figure out the rest. Meanwhile, in Yingxi's heart, she was busy imagining the two of them dancing together in some romantic dream scene. After the lesson ended, Yingxi kept her promise. She gave him a heart-shielding mirror, a rare treasure that could absorb poison and external influences. Beiran was shocked. He only wrote one character, yet she handed him something priceless. To return the favor, Beiran forged a pair of twin swords and gifted them to Yingxi. A few days later, Beiran visited the examination hallmaster to hang out. Murongsu warned them not to play games that involve money. Beiran casually explained that he was simply teaching them how to use money properly, since the sect master previously bought a plate of beef for an entire silver coin. Hearing that, the guard allowed it. As a gift, the sect master gave him a mysterious great body-protecting treasure. Beiran was shocked. There were only a few items like that in the entire continent. Even though he knew exactly how powerful it was, he pretended not to know and asked for its name. Proudly, the sect master announced the name he came up with himself. As soon as Beiran stepped into his house, Liao came rushing in like a chicken being chased by destiny. He blurted out, "Senior, are you joining the Young Heroes gathering too? If I score high, I might finally get promoted." Beiran just patted his shoulder with the emotional warmth of a refrigerator. "Other sects already have 5 people at Swan Master level. You just hit the beginner tier. Competing? Yeah, no chance." Liao's spirit nearly left his body on the spot, until Beiran flicked a lightning flower pill straight into his mouth. "That pill boosts strength fast," he warned calmly. "But if someone unqualified eats it, their body goes boom, and not the majestic kind." Before Liao could panic, Beiran grabbed him by the collar and whoosh, they shot into the air. He tossed Liao the legendary 10,000 soldier sword. Liao swung it randomly, amazed by its weight and power, until Beiran sighed like a disappointed dad. No, that's not how you use it." He took the sword, gave it one clean arc, and the blade exploded into dozens of mini blades streaking forward like lightning. Liao froze, eyes wide, soul evaporated, respect maximized. A few days later at the sect gathering, the girls were buzzing about Liao's sudden glow-up and begged to train with him. One girl noticed Chu Li staring secretly at Beiran and immediately plotted a way to get closer to him. Soon the sect leader appeared and called Li Xiao to the front. Being the strongest disciple, she was appointed senior lead for the trip to the Moon Sect. Some people cheered, some were jealous, classic. Before departure, couples started making cheesy promises. Whoever ranks highest in the competition gets my eternal love. Chuli and Zijin exchanged sparkly-eyed looks so intense it could burn flowers. Beiran, having zero interest in romance drama, quietly slipped away. But a girl named King Su suddenly called out to him, wanting to introduce herself. Beiran ignored her and kept walking. She ran after him, almost crashing into his back. And right then, the system pinged. Warning, threat level Swan. Beiran sidestepped casually, making her fall flat on the ground. The other girls gasped, impressed by his serene, nope energy. On the journey to the Moon Sect, Beiran grew thoughtful. He knew the so-called big banquet wasn't just a friendly gathering. It was a power display and political move. And behind it all, something even bigger was brewing. A junior wanted to play chess with him, but seeing Beiran snoozing on top of the carriage like a tired cat, he hesitated and backed away quietly. When they finally arrived, a disciple from Yanyue sect came to greet them. He'd heard rumors about the Guishan sect's talented newcomers and wanted to check for himself. After inspecting them like produce at a fresh market, he smiled and invited them to visit Yanyue. Compared to Guishan's humble grounds, Yanyue was massive, shiny, majestic, basically luxury resort vibes. That night, Beiran's roommate asked to play chess with him. 5 moves later, the guy surrendered in existential despair. Beiran advised him to review the match and went out for a stroll. But then the system suddenly rang with a danger alert. "Seriously? I'm just walking," Beiran muttered. Outside, he reminded himself that this was Yanyue territory, supposedly safe. But immediately, 2 groups of disciples from rival sects started brawling right in front of him. He tried walking away. Another fight. He turned. Another. It was like violence kept respawning wherever he stepped. He hopped onto a tree branch to watch from above, only to notice something strange. The elders allowed the chaos to continue. Suspicious. Wanting no part of this, Beiran moved to a more crowded, safer area where he could farm system coins without risking death. Unfortunately, fate said plot twist, and he bumped into Kingsway again. She blocked his escape with a sweet smile. Pretending it was a coincidence, she picked up a hair ornament from a jewelry counter and clipped it into her hair. "What do you think? Pretty, right?" she asked cheekily. She turned around and Beiran was already gone like a ghost with great time management. Later, while Beiran was lying in a flower field enjoying the breeze, Chingsui showed up with a lunchbox, pretending their meeting was some romantic drama scene. Since Beiran didn't react at all, she pulled her secret move, homemade dishes laced with a tiny love potion. Just one bite, she believed, and he'd fall for her. But he didn't even glance at the food. He just stood up and walked away, leaving her staring at her failure in emotional engineering. Entering the forest, Beiran picked up some stones and casually threw them at a tree. 3 female disciples instantly fell from the branches like startled squirrels. He scolded them for tailing him. They apologized, saying they wanted to get closer to their senior and learned stealth techniques from King Shao. Soon another disciple arrived, reporting that some of their members had clashed with the Zenwu sect and were injured. Qingsao wanted to report to the sect leader, but Beiran used telepathy to stop her and told her to head to the scene immediately. Qingsao marched straight to the inn where the Zenwu disciple stayed. She ordered the troublemakers to kneel and apologize. But Zenwu mocked Guishan as a weak sect. Qingsao refused to take the insult and fought back. Crowds gathered like it was a street festival, making everything worse. Soon, a real battle broke out. The Zenwu leader attacked Qingsao with a spear. She dodged without counterattacking. He mocked her for being cowardly, until his clothes tore open and revealed 5 marks across his chest. Qingxiao explained calmly, "Those marks show the 5 times I spared you. The last strike would have pierced your heart, but I don't want to embarrass a junior." Suddenly, a Zhenwu elder jumped in. Beiran immediately told Qingxiao to retreat and report. Rumors spread fast. Guixin had defeated Zhenwu. The Zhenwu elder was furious, but couldn't retaliate without looking like a bully. When the report reached the Guixin sect leader, he exploded with rage. He believed the Zhenwu elder had disrespected them. So he gathered his people and stormed over to demand justice. The Zhenwu elder appeared, but the Guixin leader ordered King to seize the offender while unleashing a massive aura that shook the ground. A huge battle between experts erupted, shaking the entire region. Just when the destruction reached peak chaos, the Yanyue sect leader descended from the sky and commanded everyone to stop. The Du sect leaders quickly cooled their heads, insisting the whole chaos was just a tiny misunderstanding. Sect leader Yanyue flashed a sly smile, pulled out a wine jar, and cheerfully invited everyone for a drink like nothing had happened. From afar, Beiran watched everything with suspicious calm. He knew Yanyue had planned this from the start, let both sides clash, then swoop in as the wise mediator to boost his sect's reputation. Afterward, King Che became the darling of the disciples, praised for his bravery. Curious, he went to Beiran and asked how his senior had predicted everything so precisely. Beiran explained he'd been watching from the beginning. Plenty of Yanyue experts were hiding around the arena, waiting for the perfect moment to jump out, make peace, and gain fame. As thanks, King Che gifted Beiran the rare elixir that the sect leader had given him, something he was supposed to use for himself. But nope, he handed it straight to Beiran. He also brought exciting news. A grand auction in Yanyue would soon sell off stacks of precious natural treasures. The next day, the two of them threw on masks and headed for the auction. On the road, they bumped into the Zijin squad. Beiran instantly broke into cold sweat and yanked Zikong into a narrow alley to hide. The girls chattered about how they'd used every trick in the book to tail their senior. Yet somehow, Beiran always caught them. They just couldn't fool him. Zijin concluded dramatically that Beiran was probably the secret son of a sect leader, hunted by a wicked stepmother, forced to run away, and now living undercover in the sect. At the auction entrance, Liao used his token to get in with Beiran. They were led into a glass room coated with invisibility spells so they could watch the auction floor without revealing their identities. The auction began. First item, a cloth woven from the silk of a level 3 strange beast. Liao almost choked when he heard the starting price. 1 chunk of mid-grade spirit stone, basically half his salary. Bids shot up one after another. Beiran calmly explained that Liao's 2 tokens came directly from the sect leader, which meant everyone here was either a sect leader or their elite disciples. No wonder the price skyrocketed to 11 stones. Then, plot twist, Beiran placed a bid. Liao stared at him like, "Senior, since when were you rich? In the end, Beiran won the cloth for 20 spirit stones, and the item was delivered right after payment. Soon, their room was piled high with spiritual treasures and rare items. Liao was so overjoyed, he practically pledged lifetime loyalty to Beiran on the spot. But the celebration was short-lived. He suddenly received a system notification to return immediately and left with Li Xiao. Meanwhile, a tight-clothed man who had just purchased a hidden weapon received an order: eliminate Liao. Sometime later, a grand multi-sect gathering was held. Everyone congratulated the sect leader for reaching the Swansong level. The cheerful atmosphere, however, shattered when a beam of magical light blasted down from the sky. The Moon Sect disciples quickly formed a defensive formation to block it. Through the smoke emerged members of the Demon Sect. Enraged, the sect leader unleashed his strongest technique, forming a circle of energy and exploding it outward. But the attack was fully absorbed by an old man with fiery red hair, Hong, the Wind Sect leader. That sect hadn't been invited because, well, they were part of the demon factions. The aura of the two mighty leaders clashed, both already at the Swansong level. Sect leader Guan, who originally wanted the gathering to strengthen intersect bonds among the youth, now found himself completely lost. He never expected the demon sect to appear with such force. Yin Zhanghong of the demon sect casually suggested they hold competitions between righteous and demonic sects. The other sect leaders agreed. The first competition was martial arts. From the demon side, a young girl named Manjiao stepped forward, already at Chuanzong Stage 3. Yin Zhanghong just laughed, letting his disciple fight however she please. Manjiao eyed the righteous disciples with a mocking smile, calling them all weak. A young man challenged her, creating two shadow clones to attack together. But with a single flick of her finger, Manjiao hit his real body and sent him flying like a tossed doll. While the battle raged, Yin Zhanghong casually walked among the righteous disciples and asked, "So, how much spirit stones do you get each month?" A wave of awkward silence followed. They trained all the time and never received spirit stones. Yin Zhanghong burst into laughter, bragging that even ordinary disciples in his sect get 10 stones monthly. That alone made many righteous disciples jealous, especially after hearing Manjiao wasn't just strong, but also a singer and an all-around competition queen. Curious, Beiran wandered over to the singing contest. There, Zijin was battling Manjiao, but the demon girl's powerful aura snapped the strings of Zijin's instrument. Zijin admitted defeat on the spot. The following competitions didn't go much better. Though a few righteous disciples managed some wins, the results were negligible. Their original plan to humiliate the demon sect flipped completely. They ended up embarrassing themselves instead. To lift everyone's spirits, the sect leader announced that anyone who took first place, whether in the literary contests or in martial arts, would receive a grand prize. Right then, Hong popped up out of nowhere, casually munching on a chunk of meat. With his mouth half full, he asked, "If Manjiao wins, she gets the prize too, right?" Instantly, the two sect leaders started arguing again. Hong raised his hands to calm them, saying they should support each other so their sects could grow strong together. That night, Liao came to Beiran with a younger brother disciple, asking for guidance before tomorrow's matches. From a distance, junior sister Ying stared dreamily at Beiran, already picturing herself marrying him and raising 2 kids, a boy and a girl. The next morning, the chess round began. The righteous disciples whispered nervously, worried that if the demon sect lost, they might go on a killing spree. Manjiao suddenly appeared, warning them not to talk nonsense, then walked off to cheer for her friend. Beiran watched from the stands as his student, Wuhan, took his seat at the board. His opponent was frighteningly sharp. Move by move, Wuhan was pushed into a corner until he finally surrendered. The referee then announced that the final match between Chu Liao and Beiran would begin in 10 minutes. With teary eyes, Wuhan apologized for failing to use the technique his senior taught him. But Beiran comforted him. He had already fought well. When the last match began, all the female disciples crowded in, eager to witness the legendary Beiran in action. Chu Liao made the first move with dramatic force, slamming his hand so hard the chessboard cracked into pieces. The referee scrambled to replace it, but Beiran stopped him. Calmly, he turned to Chu Liao and asked if he dared to play blind chess. Without hesitation, Beiran removed his hat, covered his eyes, and started the match. At the same time, Hong arrived with two sect leaders, curious to watch this unusual showdown. In blind chess, the referee recorded every spoken move from both players. But their pace was so insanely fast that the poor referee begged them to slow down. Even the two sect leaders couldn't follow the sequence anymore. Hong chuckled and held up a demonstration board for the audience, praising the insane brilliance of the representative from the obediences. After several rounds, Chu Liao began to falter, thinking longer and longer. Among the spectators of both factions, Man Zhao and Liao got into a heated argument over who would win. So heated, they almost started throwing punches before the sect leaders intervened. With a cold smirk, Man Zhao promised she'd get her revenge later in the martial arts match, and Liao agreed without hesitation. Soon after, Chu Liao conceded defeat. Cheers erupted from the righteous side. The sect leaders' eyes welled with tears. Finally, someone from their faction had captured a victory. He personally handed the prize to Beiran in front of all the disciples. But deep inside, Beiran felt uneasy, as if his peaceful days were about to vanish. Just as he was about to leave, Man Zhao blocked his way with fury blazing in her eyes. She drew her dagger and accused him of using dirty tricks to win. If he didn't confess, she'd kill him right there. Beiran pretended to be terrified and shouted loudly enough for everyone to hear, acting like he was being attacked. Man Zhao, frustrated but unable to do anything, stomped away. Not long after, Sect Master Quan and Hong arrived, asking why he screamed. Beiran explained that Man Zhao had accused him of cheating. Hong burst out laughing, saying Man Zhao loved scaring people. Besides, no one died, so it was fine. Then, the martial arts match between Man Zhao and Liao began. After a few exchanges, Man Zhao sensed something odd in Liao's techniques. Instantly, she used her cold ice technique to freeze his movements. Liao's body slowly became encased in frost. But when she approached, Liao suddenly unleashed his full strength, blasting her backward. Liao's sword shattered into several pieces, injuring Man Zhao. Everyone froze in shock. What kind of weapon could cause such force? Man Zhao burst into tears and ran straight into Hong's arms. Meanwhile, another assassin quietly aimed a poisoned spirit nail at Beiran. The moment he sensed it, Beiran was stunned. Who hated him enough to use such a rare, deadly weapon? Still, he felt confident his defense could take it. But when he turned, he saw Chu Li standing behind him, right in danger's path. Suddenly, the system inside him issued a command: protect Chu Li and fake your death. Without hesitation, he moved and took the hit himself. Chu Li's anguished cry echoed across the arena as she held Beiran's limp body. Zijin fainted in shock, while Ying's younger sister rushed over in fury, screaming for the culprit. The sect leader inspected Beiran's wound and recognized the weapon immediately, a soul-stealing nail from the demon sect, a weapon capable of killing anyone regardless of cultivation level. Rage exploded on both sides. The righteous and the demonic sects clashed instantly. Amid the chaos, Chu Li refused to let go of Beiran's unmoving body. Li Xiao went berserk, slaughtering enemies in vengeance for his senior. The sect leaders tried to restrain Hong, but he easily deflected all their attacks and ordered everyone to stop. But with emotions skyrocketing and control slipping, the powerful aura of high-level experts erupted, shaking the entire battleground. Seeing the chaos spiraling out of control, Beiran decided it was finally time to come back to life. Slowly, he opened his eyes as if he had just regained consciousness. The sect leader rushed over, but Yingxi's younger sister was faster. She threw herself at him, sobbing in relief. The other girls quickly followed, piling into a group hug like they were welcoming a hero returning from war. Meanwhile, the assassin who had failed earlier tried to strike again, but Hong snatched him mid-attempt. Hong promised he'd interrogate the man personally and deliver proper answers to every sect involved. Inside the sect leader's chamber, Hong questioned Beiran directly, no sugarcoating. Beiran admitted he had been wearing a mysterious great protective garment gifted by the Hall of Corpses chief. That miracle armor was what saved his life. Tong Chui froze. He never imagined their relationship was that close. From this, Hong realized someone was deliberately provoking conflict between the righteous and the demonic factions. And according to the assassin's interrogation, even he had no idea who the real mastermind was. A few days later, the sect leader still forced Beiran to train every day while fussing over him like an overbearing parent, until Beiran had no choice but to escape. When he stepped outside, he was stunned. Disciples were reenacting his dramatic rescue of Chuli, complete with romantic embellishments and exaggerated swoons. While Beiran was busy worrying about his future, Kuan Duangchu and Hong summoned him. The sect leader handed him a wish-fulfilling card. Beiran tried to refuse such a rare gift, but Hong laughed and said, "Take at least one. You've earned it." Curious, Beiran accepted. Yingjiang Hong fixed him with a sharp look and asked, "You're a clever one. Can you figure out who's pulling the strings behind all this?" Following his system's guidance, Beiran suspected someone high-ranking from the righteous sects. When he went down to the city, he sensed someone tailing him. Using a clever trick, he pretended to get lost and slipped into a narrow alley. A girl followed, right into his trap. When Beiran appeared behind her, she panicked and almost attacked him. She tried to pull something from her chest pocket, but flustered, accidentally swung her sword instead. The dangerous object she meant to take out, a toothpick. From her swift sword movement, Beiran instantly recognized the Linglong Swerchi technique, definitely from the righteous sects. Though she tried to deny it, her identity was obvious. She even begged him to pretend he hadn't seen her and to let her keep spying on him. But Beiran ignored her and went to report to Yingjiang Hong and the sect leader. He informed them that Manjiao had sent someone to watch him. Yingjiang Hong only smirked. Manjiao's never seen her brother lose. Of course she's still mad. On the table, Beiran noticed a dossier about sect leader Hangbang and grew suspicious. Yingjiang Hong explained that during the Alliance siege, sect leader Huangbang didn't help at all. In fact, he attacked anyone he saw, righteous or demonic. Beiran then told them about the time he and his junior siblings went to Huangbang for their exam. Crime was rampant, children were kidnapped and sold, and the Huangbang sect, which had risen only a few years earlier, was often linked to shady dealings. One of Beiran's junior sisters had even been harmed when descending the mountain for the exam. Based on their investigations, they strongly suspected that sect was the one stirring up the war. Sorcerer Anpeng agreed to capture sect leader Huang, but the main sect leader objected. "There's not enough evidence. If we're wrong, we'll be accused of abducting innocent people." As the two argued, Beiran proposed a new plan. They would publicly declare that all previous incidents were just misunderstandings caused by an unknown outside power trying to ignite war between good and evil. The next day, the announcement spread across the sects. They claimed to have captured a fake mastermind to lull the real culprit into lowering their guard. When Beiran entered the forest, his junior sisters, who had been secretly tailing him, immediately bumped into each other. Chuli tried to thank him for saving her earlier, but couldn't bring herself to speak.
Zijin, in her fluster, accidentally blurted out that she missed him. To stop them from following him everywhere, Beiran gave them a special task. They could become his guided disciples only if they become the top 3 among all disciples. Fired up, the girls rushed off. Soon after, Li Xiao arrived seeking help. He admitted that he had no chance of winning tomorrow's fight against Juliao with his current ability. Beiran finally gave him a new pill, 7 parts of power extracted from the old mixture. Whether Li Xiao could withstand it depended on his own endurance. The next day's match was intense. From the start, Liao was pushed back and opened 3 parts of his power. The elders watching from above were worried, but allowed it as long as he could win. Juliao got serious. Their speed soon surpassed what human eyes could follow. Following Beiran's advice, Liao used invisible needles to block his opponent's meridians, then summoned lightning and knocked Juliao unconscious. Cheers erupted, except for Manjiao, who stormed off in fury. That afternoon, Ying Jianghun and the sect leader came to see Beiran. They asked him to investigate Huangbang sect. Beiran refused, saying his strength was still too low. But Ying Jianghun insisted. Manjiao would accompany him. Against his own wishes and bound by the system's instructions, Beiran finally agreed. During their carriage ride toward Huangbang, the two sat in silence, clearly not fond of each other. On the way, they encountered a girl who served under Manjiao. Beiran was immediately suspicious. This mission was supposed to be only for him and Manjiao. When he began writing a report to send to Ying Jianghong, the girl suddenly pressed a dagger to his throat. But Beiran remained calm and said, "If you don't want me sending this letter, you have 3 options. 1. Obey every order I give for the entire journey. 2. Let Taiyan get out of the carriage. Or 3. Kill me." Manjiao, who had never killed anyone before, panicked and told Taiyan to do it instead.
Meanwhile, in Jiangbei, the sect leader was getting restless. Beiran still hadn't returned, even though he'd promised to play with him afterward. The Dharma Guardian reported that Beiran was currently on a secret mission under the sect leader's direct orders. The disciples were stunned. If Beiran actually agreed, then something huge must be happening behind the scenes of this whole convention. Even Baichu, who had been hiding far away, couldn't contain his joy when he heard. But the moment he learned someone had tried to assassinate Beiran, his emotions exploded. Rage, worry, relief, panic, fluctuating like a storm-tossed sea. Meanwhile, the girls begged the Dharma protector to accept them as true disciples so they could train hard and become the top-ranked students. A nearby city had been completely wrecked. Manjia worried that gangs and thugs would now do whatever they wanted there. Wanting to help maintain order, since she was known for her heroic heart, she went to investigate. But to her surprise, the city was peaceful and thriving. She chatted with a man drinking water, pretending she had come with her father to do business and was looking for the local thugs to pay protection fees. The man laughed, telling her not to worry. 2 people had already driven all the criminals out. Hearing their names, Beiran grew curious and decided to investigate. To his shock, those 2 heroes were Shi and Kinyu. When the pair appeared, the townsfolk cheered so loudly that Beiran couldn't get close. He had to wait until nightfall to sneak into their home. After tricking 2 zombie guards at the entrance, he slipped inside and found Songgi and Chinyu feeding their dogs. His sudden greeting startled them both. During their conversation, he asked whether Kinyu knew anything about Hangbang. Kinyu admitted honestly that someone from the demon sect was planning to create chaos and drag the other sect leaders into trouble. Worse, the mastermind behind all of it was actually the royal court. The palace, however, was usually just a puppet of an even greater force.
After hearing everything, Beiran prepared to leave. Chinyu asked for guidance. Despite being praised as a hero of the people, his cultivation was still low and his future uncertain. But Beiran's system instructed him to ignore the request, so he simply replied, "I don't know." Kinyu interpreted this as encouragement to rely on himself. The next morning, Manjia woke Tin up to continue the investigation. She couldn't understand why Beiran always seemed so relaxed, just strolling around every day. When she went outside, Beiran was already waiting and asked her to send a message to Hong, saying he had urgent information. Manjia laughed, assuming he was spouting nonsense. But minutes after releasing the pigeon, Hong's bird arrived with a reply. They immediately went to see Hong and sect leader Quan. Both elders were impressed by how fast Beiran gathered intel. In the demon sect headquarters, a group of mysterious figures was planning to assassinate Chinyu, son of the Bloodfire sect leader, because he was interfering with their business, the Hoangbang region. After Beiran relayed all the information, Hong asked where he got it. Beiran answered that it was from a friend. When pressed further, he admitted the friend was the son of the Blood Sect leader. Since he brought such valuable intel, Beiran was given a magical tool, the Cloud Dog. When blown, it summons a cloud that could fly him anywhere while masking his aura from enemies. Excited, Beiran tested it immediately. The cloud looked just like Sun Wukong's Fan Chen Sui, shooting through the sky. The two elders watched him disappear and quietly discussed whether they should warn the emperor. But Hong said, "No need, just change the king. And who better than the young man who just left, smart and adaptable?" Unfortunately, Beiran was too happy and ended up falling off the cloud, landing on his backside. When he returned to the sect leader sprinted over and hugged him tightly, checking him from head to toe. Beiran quickly hid behind his junior disciples. Only then did he realize how panicked the leader had been after hearing about the assassination attempt, even wanting to take revenge immediately. Beiran reassured him he was fine and tried to give back the magic tool, but the sect leader refused, worried he might face danger again. The system reminded Beiran that he had to return the tool as promised, but instead, the sect leader dragged him inside, saying he wanted to play the night game Beiran had once mentioned. Beiran tried to refuse, but couldn't escape. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, a massive fire broke out. Chinyu and his adopted siblings rushed to extinguish it. But the assassin was far stronger than expected. Within a few moves, Kinyu was gravely injured, coughing blood. His allies fell as well. When the assassin targeted Songyi, Chinyu grabbed his leg, begging him not to hurt her. This only excited the killer more. He wanted to kill Songyi right in front of her lover. Just as the sword was about to pierce Songyi, Chu Liao arrived, struck the assassin down and saved them. From her words, they learned that Hoangbang had already been destroyed by two elders. Back at the sect, the leader gave Beiran a stern reminder. If those two elders ever ask you for anything, he must agree. The sect would support him fully. Suddenly, Beiran's system flashed a warning, a heaven-level choice signaling a catastrophe looming over Jiangbang. After the sect leader's daughter broke through her cultivation bottleneck, she went to meet her fiancé to cancel their engagement. The young man was only at the third level of key refining, far below her. She declared, 3 tahun from now, come to the sect and fight me. If you win, I'll marry you. If I win, our engagement is over. Beiran suddenly realized 3 tahun later was the very beginning of the disaster that would annihilate Jiangbang. He imagined the young man training desperately for 3 tahun, defeating her and humiliating the sect. Enraged, the sect leader would send assassins to kill him. He would escape, return for revenge, and wipe out the entire sect. Without hesitation, Beiran wrote a letter and sent it to his wandering disciple, hoping the tragedy could be prevented before everything collapsed.